Commander Cockington Cadvio here, yet again for another Trekyards mission briefing, a bonus, brand new, very much up-to-date, breaking news mission briefing. What are we doing today, Stuart?
Well, we've already got a sneak peek at something from Star Trek Beyond in the form of the USS Franklin. But today we've got some more shots of the bridge, so we might as well discuss that because, anything new Trek is worth talking about.
And these came out literally about an hour ago, so we really wanted to get our thoughts out there because it's pretty interesting. But this first picture is obviously the Franklin. If you don't remember what it was, we don't know almost anything about the ship. They're really sort of staying quiet, which is interesting. We have a great episode, link in the description below, of our dissection of the Franklin. We liked it overall. We thought it was a nice in-between. The scale we thought was a bit odd, but that's fine if that's the scale they pick. And these next pictures seem to work with that. We also thought it was quite NXy / that ship from FASA. What was it called? The
Lochnar class.
So, interesting design. But if we go to this first picture, and this is all thanks to Trek Core, this is clearly the bridge. So, Stuart, think back to an hour and 10 minutes ago. What was your first thought when seeing these pictures?
Well, literally only saw them about 20 minutes ago. So.
Yeah.
It's small. It's damn small for a bridge.
Yes.
I do like the displays.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of have that original movie era feel, like color to them, that blue and green. And the chairs are wicked cool, like the stripes on them. The stripes make them go faster, don't you know?
Yeah. When I think back to what my first impressions, I mean, this actually makes me think the scale makes sense, which is a big thing we were discussing. Are they going to really think about it? Because the JJ ships don't tend to do something realistic. This really sets in stone, okay, it's a small ship, it's a small bridge, but you know what, this feels very functional to me. This doesn't feel sillily small. It feels like just enough room for a scout ship or just a functional set of crew. Like, this has actually quite got a good vibe to me. Now, the big question then is, so this is obviously JJ verse, which means the designs are different. We know what the top of the line Connie looks like. We know what the Kelvin looked like, which is prime, but also with their jiggery pokery going on, so it's a little bit odd in between. This we can assume is after Kelvin. We don't know, but we can probably assume that. If it isn't, how do you think it feels timeline-wise, linking to the JJ, linking to NX-01 tech perhaps? What do you think of the colour palette and just the feel of it?
Well, it seems like a darker, earlier kind of ship. I would think maybe, maybe pre-Kelvin even. I mean, the Kelvin bridge was kind of dark, but it was a lot bigger. It was obviously a bigger ship too, probably. Probably. So yeah, I would tend to think this maybe an older ship that was we kind of discussed that in our last our discussion on the Franklin, that it's probably an older style ship that was maybe abandoned because it looks rather dirty in a lot of scenes, especially the interiors, a lot of dust and grime and stuff on there. So yeah, I'd be willing to say it's probably pre-Kelvin, pre-TOS era.
If you think back to the Kelvin, it was those ready hues, but those L cars were very advanced, very motiony, and they were doing holographic. I mean, these monitors look much more like what we think of as an L cars, sort of staticky 2D, but information rather than all those fancy things. So this could even be pre-Kelvin. This could be a step and a half above the NX. Because I mean, if you look at the way it's built, I mean, they've got rivets and they've got screw holes in the ceiling. They've got panel lines. This is very much closer, I think, to the NX-01. I mean, especially it's this solid silver, so possibly it's that evolution of that sort of more submarine feel. Because the only thing that doesn't say that to me is the light panels, but that's it. Apart from that, it feels more submariney to me.
Yeah, and actually, now that you said NX, I mean, look at the captain's chair. It does look a lot like Archer's, actually. But yeah, very cool. I like it, and I like that this looks smaller. Because like we discussed, we think that's a small ship, so we don't want a voluminous bridge like we had in 2009. I mean,
again, there's simple things to fix, and if they get the scales just set, committed to this is the size of this. If this is the size of the JJ verse ship, I will happily reset that in my brain as being the size of the Connie. If they say it's the size of the Connie, if they do that in this next film, perfect. You know what I mean? So this is a great first step towards that. I like the colour palette. I like it's dark, but not too dark. You can see, like I say, the damage on the pieces of the whole, the bits at the front. There's not a lot of consoles actually. I mean, we can't obviously see the full bridge, and there's a whole lot of space we're not seeing. But it looks like there's maybe 2 at the back and then 1 to each side. That's a pretty Spartan style of bridge. I mean, just go back to the only things we have. The Kelvin had a lot of consoles. The NX-01 had a lot of consoles. Considering, what do you think about this?
Like I said, we haven't seen much of it. It's interesting. There's a console behind him there where Spock is. I don't know. Well, I would speculate that might be the science station, possibly communications. I don't know. I don't know what to say about the number of panels and stuff, because like I want to see more of the bridge, obviously.
I think it definitely reinforces it's a scout ship. It's a very small, basic ship, but very functional. But yeah, it's a good first image.
All right, let's go on to the next image. This is
the director.
The director.
I directed.
And we get to see probably what was. I would imagine he's leaning on the Helm console. That's probably what Sulu would see.
Yes.
And it's kind of fuzzy. It's out of focus, which is a shame.
But it's still the only reverse shot we get of these panels, and you can see. At least I think I can see they do look like more physical buttons on the right hand side, closer to Star Trek 6's with those little switches and things. It has that. I don't know, it feels a bit more tactile than a full touchscreen display, or am I imagining that?
It's hard to say, honestly. I don't really see that per se. I mean, it could just be touchscreen, but yeah, just focus, zoom in and focus so we can see. But obviously, by this shot, we're not seeing any other panels or consoles on the side-ish near the front of the view screen. So it could be that there are very limited consoles on the bridge.
And also, the color palette's different. This is not the same bluey green. This is a white. So maybe you've got the control consoles are a clean LCARs, and then the displays were different. Subtle things, but it's interesting that they went that different, because I think the JJ Prize has all a very consistent color scheme throughout every sort of console, I believe.
Yeah. And this is more like the JJ Prize. It's got the blues and the reds of their P caps or whatever it's called.
Well, that's the push the button to make it go, and then push the button for turbo. The red and purple.
That's the start button.
Yeah. But the next picture is Justin directing, and this is a good side shot of the captain's chair with a nice bit of tech either side, which again is slightly similar to the NX-01 style. And you've got the doors. There's doors either side of the bridge. Now, do you think that's a turbo lift or to a corridor?
Well, judging by the layout of the ship and where the bridge is placed, I would assume it's just to a corridor. I don't think the bridge is specifically on top of this particular design. Plus, we know that JJ likes to do that one turbo lift to the bridge, one that goes into a hallway or onto the main deck. I mean, so that's probably what this would be. Yeah. But we're just guessing here, guys.
But that's what we've got to go on. And you can see there's another panel on to the right-hand side of him. So there is, at least on that side, so there is a bit more than we can see. But it's quite an interesting design. We know that normally Star Trek just has very flat rectangle doors. And this is like a pointed and then down. And if you consider the size of the ship, that looks like a very large door. It's an interesting stylistic choice. It definitely implies it's to a corridor, I think. But it's a very big door. Maybe it's a blast door as well. Maybe the bridge module can separate. That's a bit radical. Maybe it's a blast door.
Good suggestion. I do like the captain's chair, honestly. Speaking as a captain, I think that's kind of cool looking. There's not much to it. It's very simplistic, but then again, it's very much like the NX-01 chair.
It's bulkier. But in a very simple way, if that makes sense. Like, it's very much hard edges, whereas the NX-01 had more padding, I think. It felt a bit more casual. The NX-01 chair was the same as the Star Trek 5 Kirk chair. Like, it's been a chair that's been handed down for multiple things. They update it a bit for the refit and NX-01 chair. They make a whole episode about it, but it's basically the same chair, so it's interesting to see a brand new chair for Captain Kirk of the USS Franken. Doesn't have the same ring to it.
Because We'll find out why. That's why.
Yes, we will.
All right, so let's move on to the next picture. And this shows that side door again with the number 6 on it.
Number 6
so
on it.
Was the bridge on deck 6?
Because that's got to be...
Are there even 6 decks in the Franklin? Because it doesn't look like there are. But anyway.
Door 6? Corridor 6? Americans like their, block numbers. Maybe it's like, this is number 6. Or maybe it's a skate pod door. Oh, I don't know, that seems a bit unlikely, but...
Right beside it looks like a dedication plaque, almost.
It does. That's cool. That'd be a nice touch. I don't know if they actually had those in the other vessels. I can't think if they did or didn't.
Don't think I've ever seen one, but...
Now, one thing that I've read online in the few minutes it's been up, it doesn't feel like Star Trek, per se, because it's very sort of generic-y, metal-y... I mean, obviously the layout's Star Trek, and I think if they're all wearing the red and blues uniforms, it'd feel a bit more Star Trek-y. The fact they're in very different uniforms is also affecting the feel, but it doesn't even feel JJ, which is very interesting. It doesn't have that same flair. So, I mean...
It almost seems like a ship from Alien or something, like the Sulaco.
Yeah, I was thinking
it's got that kind of feel to it.
I was thinking more BSG with how the pointy curves are for the door, or even Stargate, as someone pointed out. I mean, and do you like that? It's pushing away, because this is kind of like, if this is their attempt to sort of reinvent the style to sort of not appease the fans, but make it more making sense, linking to the past. Do you like the fact this is like the next reinvention of the style, the more faithful style, but it doesn't feel... I mean, do you like that, or do you not like it? Would you rather they actually kept with the new Trek aesthetic rather than building another new Trek aesthetic?
I do like this very much. I like that it's not all white and shiny and lens flary and in your face. I like the more subtle color palette, absolutely. Now, it is as we speculated, it's an older ship, so it's dirty and grimy. So, you shine that up, it might be a little bit brighter, silver or whatever. It almost looks Klingon right now with the amount of dirty that it is.
Yeah, add some fog and red lights. Yeah, that's actually a great point. It could be Klingon.
Even the angles are kind of Klingon-like. So, I don't know. It's I do like it. I do like it. So the answer to your question is yes.
I think what would be really interesting, like, again, I like this design. I think it actually works pretty damn well and makes a lot more linking sense. I think it'd be interesting when the film eventually comes out on Blu-ray, take a screen cap, you Photoshop movie era LCARs into the background LCARs, and then replace on our characters here maybe movie era or TOS era uniforms, and see if suddenly by doing those two things it would feel more Star Trek in some respect. I think obviously they've got to stick to their new version, which I'm fine with. But it's interesting. Do you think that LCARS works as like a midway, if it's pre-TOS, does it look like an evolution of an XO1 to JJ, or is it just a more low power JJ, which is the bright lights and things?
Yeah, it just looks like an older version of JJ. I can't see it. See that panel back there's, it doesn't really have an LCARS feel to me per se.
More Minority Report.
It could be another sci-fi franchise.
Yeah. Like, we know that in the last episode of Enterprise, how controversial that is. They did start adding more of the red and the blues and the yellows. Well, they already had blue, the red and the yellows into the LCARS, and straight away it feels more TOS. But then again, we both said we like the fact that it's more blue than movie era. We love that design. So it's a difficult thing, because we're cut between a thing and a hard place. This is meant to be in the 5-year mission, and if everything's advancing at a different rate, I'm totally fine by saying this is the early version of, or their equivalent of the Star Trek 6 version. Like, they seem to be pushing technology quicker and quicker, so they just happen to have had that first, their version anyway.
I gotta say something real quick.
Yeah.
I love those jackets. I want one. I think they look cool. Totally off topic.
Yeah, I mean, if you consider them as like an interesting in between NX and J, well, TOS, they work pretty well, considering they're a bit Guardians of the Galaxy for me, a bit too Buck Rogers Space Adventurer.
Yeah, definitely a way mission, almost Cage style, a little bit.
Yeah, it's
a little bit like the original Cage, but
it feels very, very functional, like very, very functional, which is great. Works for me fine. Although it's always a hard I mean, to be fair, the NX-01 uniforms only felt like Star Trek because we've already watched it for several years. They're not really they're not Star Trek uniforms, are they? They're boiler suits. So, I mean, what are you going to say? Although, speaking of uniforms, what do you think of the new JJ Classic? Because they've got a new black line and the collar's higher and the fabric's thicker. I think it's a different style.
I rather like it, to be honest. The new color makes it look a little sharper, I think.
Yeah.
More militaristic, though, again.
It looks more suity. It looks more professional. And I'm happy they lost the Starfleet emblem in the fabric, because why would Starfleet do that? Branding overkill.
Did they? Maybe a close-up shot will show us they still have that. Who knows?
Oh, I think we've seen a British stills and they don't for this one. It's a much more clean look. But anyway, let's end on the first picture again, which shows the whole crew. Clearly, this is a pretty important ship because everyone's there apart from Uhura, wherever she is. And yeah, interesting bridge. It's got some. I love the scale. A lot of good things going for it. And hey, you put some Star Trek sound effects. You put a classic TOS vibe to it. I think you do a lot with it. Any closing thoughts, Stuart, on this Franklin Bridge released art and pictures?
Well, I'm actually more excited to see the movie now, to be honest. I think they need to release a little more footage for us, kind of feed us. But like I said, this bridge feels very Klingon to me. Like you said, you put in a few red lights and some fog, and you got a Klingon bridge. Absolutely. Yeah. But,
or like the HMS Bounty, the sort of Federation version, the Federation reef of a Klingon ship. Boom. That's the sort of hull. Absolutely.
Yeah. Especially where Spock is sitting with that console there.
Photoshop, guys. Make a Klingon bridge out of it. Actually, yeah. I mean, if you take out the Helm front two consoles, and if there is a second console back there, we can't really tell where Chekhov is. That's what the Klingons have: two things, then a bridge, and then a front chair. That would be Klingon stylistic. God, we pick out a lot of stuff in these, don't we? But yeah, I think I'm more excited for film 2. I like seeing Trek brought down a notch, like brought back slightly closer to the midline of what we would not find acceptable. That's a really bad way of saying it, but like what we can appreciate and links in, and just a bit more grounded. I think. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Overall, I'm more excited now to see the movie. I want to see the Franklin, to be honest. I mean, the Franklin, it looks like a neat ship from the outside, and from what we've seen here, I think it's going to be kind of cool to see. So,
and an easy way of solving the whole view screen thing is you just have a shield that can go down. That'd be an easy fix. You just have a physical armor that goes down, blocks the window, so you only have the window open when you want to physically see things. The rest of the time it's a view screen. That'd be a quick and easy fix to that whole problem with it as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Anyway, that is it for this day's bonus Trekyards mission briefing. I hope you guys enjoyed our thoughts and speculations on this new design. Obviously, not a lot to go on, but I think this picture really does show a lot. So we talked about it and discussed, and obviously when the film comes out, we'll discuss even more. But yeah, looking good so far, and enjoy the rest of our content, guys, every week, and tomorrow's new episode, and every bit and bob. So until then, this is Commander Kongs.
And I'm Captain Foley.
We will see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.